You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3, episode 71. The Cubs, Crawly, they're making their playoff push. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to the podcast, follow on all the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram. We're on Facebook as well, and you can email us at flythew670@gmail.com. So, Crawly, plenty of W's flying since we last got together. Hope you're having a good Labor Day weekend, and the Cubs took care of business against the Washington Nationals.
Dustin, the Cubs haven't lost in over a week. This is an unbelievable roll. I got a laugh out of this. Jesse Rogers tweeted this. They scored 89 runs in 9 games. They are the first team to score at least 14 runs 4 times in an 8-game span since the 1897 Boston Bean Eaters.
The Bean Eaters. Okay. Boy, I'd love to see. Can we? If we go into Google, can we find the logo of the Bean Eaters?
I'm sure we can. All I can tell you right now is that when you're talking about the Boston Bean Eaters, and that's you're going way back here
in the way back machine. All right, let's go way back to game number 1 of this series, and that was Friday night, and Shota Imanaga had the ball for the Cubs.
Yeah, this one got to be a little bit closer than we would have liked here. The Cubs beat Jake Irvin on this one. The Nationals on all 3 games, Dustin, are going to get on the board first. In this game, with 1 on, 1 out, Jake Wood is going to single. Juan Yepes strikes out for the 2nd out. Imanaga is going to walk Andres Chaparro to put runners at 1st and 2nd. And then Jose Tena doubled in the gap to put the Nationals up 2-0. Dustin, this team, there's a lot of names that you're just not going to recognize, but they got a lot of young, good talent here. I think in a few years, this is going to be a really good Nationals team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I think they're putting together the right kind of team.
Now, the lead didn't last long. The Cubs offense erupted for 7 runs in the 2nd inning. Isaac Paredes and Nico Horner hit back-to-back singles, and then Dansby Swanson also singled to score Paredes to make it a 2-1 game. The red-hot PCA doubled to score both runners. Miguel Amaya grounded out to move PCA to 3rd, and Ian Happ hit one to first baseman Andres Chaparro, who made the mistake of trying to throw out PCA at home. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
PCA's safe. Happ reaches first on that fielder's choice. Michael Busch doubled to score Happ, and Cody Bellinger hit a 2-run blast. So just like that, Dustin, the Cubs are up 7-2, 7 runs in the 2nd inning, and they needed all of them.
They needed all of them, and that gives Shota a really good cushion, right? You think that that's the kind of lead, and he can attack the strike zone and have a different approach for sure.
Right. Now, Shota would give up a leadoff home run to Dylan Cruz to make it 7-3, but that would be the last run Imanaga would give up. He went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, and 8 Ks. Dustin's favorite type of quality start. Nate Pearson pitched 2 innings out of the pen. He gave up only 1 hit with 2 strikeouts. And that takes us to the 9th inning. Tyson Miller would come into the game, and unfortunately, it's one of those rare times he didn't have it. Luis Garcia doubled the lead off the inning. Joey Gallo walked. Miller got Jose Tena to ground out, but the runners advanced to 2nd and 3rd, but they did have 1 out. Then former Cub, Ildemaro Vargas, the guy I told you last episode was still collecting a paycheck. He singles to make it 7-4. Now you got a ball game here. You got 1 out, runners at the corner. Counsell has seen enough at that point. Drew Smiley, who was not picked up on waivers, comes into the game. He walks C.J. Abrams to load the bases. He strikes out Hubert Ruiz. We told you he was on the cold list. He got 2 outs, but now the bases are loaded for Jacob Young. He singles, 2 more scores. Now it's a 7-6 ball game, Dustin, and we're sweating here, right? This is the type of game they would blow in May or June especially. And tying run is at 2nd, winning run is at 1st. Counsell pulls Smiley, puts in Keegan Thompson, who strikes out Dylan Cruz to end the game. Boy, oh boy, this Cubs team sometimes can give you some ulcers, but that would have been the 4th win in the row for the Cubs.
Yeah, that was a tough one to watch, but well worth it. So 1 W in. And then game number 2, this is on Saturday afternoon. Javier Assad took the ball.
Yep, Javier Assad versus DJ Hers, and like I said, love the kid DJ, and playing against his own team, and he looked fired up when he came out.
Yeah, he was pumped. He was pumped, no doubt.
Now, just like game 1, the Nationals would get on the board first. Bottom of the 2nd, 1 out. Jose Tena singles. He advances to 2nd on a ground out and scores on a Joey Gallo single to put the Nats up 1-0. They're going to increase their lead to 2-0 in the bottom of the 4th on an Andres Chaparro solo home run. Third inning would be an important one, right? 1 out. Assad walks James Wood. Luis Garcia grounds into a 4-6-3 double play. And then manager Davey Martinez challenges, and the call's upheld, inning over, and the Nationals lose their challenge. I mean, it would have been, what, 2 outs? I don't know if you challenge on that play. I thought that was kind of a weird move by Davey Martinez.
It was weird. Yep.
There's going to be a couple of plays later on where he wanted his challenge, right?
Yeah, he wanted it back. Yep, no doubt.
So the Cubs offense was being no hit by former Cub prospect DJ Hurst through 4 innings. He only gave up 1 walk, but the Cubs got to him in the 5th. Isaac Paredes is going to single. Michael Busch walks, and then Nico singles to load the bases for PCA. Pete falls behind 0-2, but he's able to hit a sacrifice fly to score Paredes. Cubs trail 2-1. Dustin, that's a professional at bat by PCA, getting the run in and not striking out. You continue to see the maturation process with that guy. I guarantee you earlier in the year, that would have been a strikeout.
Right. No doubt. Yep. That was a really good approach.
Now, Christian Bethancourt, he's still swinging a hot bat. Runners at first and second with 1 out. Christian hits a single right up the middle. Center fielder Jacob Young lets the ball kind of get past him. Busch scores, Nico to third. Bethancourt ends up at second, and the game is tied at 2. Ian Happ hits one. It ricocheted off the body of DJ Hurst. He makes a nice play to get Ian out at first, but Nico scores to make it 3-2. DJ's day would be over. He went 4 2/3 innings, gave up 4 runs on 3 hits, 2 walks, and 5 Ks. All the damage coming in the 5th. New pitcher Jacob Barnes comes into the game. Dansby Swanson doubles to score Bethancourt, and the Cubs' lead increases to 4-2 before Seiya lines out to end the inning. Now, the Nationals will get one of those runs back in the bottom of the 5th. Jacob Young leads off with a double, advances to third on a ground out. Assad would strike out James Wood for the 2nd out. Unfortunately, Assad would throw a wild pitch. Young would score, and the Nationals pull within 1 run, 4-3. Dustin, we've been talking lately about the Cubs offense, their bullpen, and their starters, but the defense put on a nice little show. Bottom of the 6th, Jose Tena leads off with a single to left center. He tries to stretch it into a double. It's a 1-run game, right? PCA makes this great spinning throw to Nico, and then Nico makes a great diving tag.
The tag was awesome. Yeah, the tag was great. Yep.
Everything. I mean, that PCA spin throw, I mean, he's almost going away from the second baseman, and that was right on the money. And then, like you said, that tag by Nico ensuring that he's not safe. That was just great. Next batter, CJ Abrams singles. He tries to steal a second. Christian Bethancourt makes a beautiful throw to Dansby Swanson. Abrams is caught stealing. Dustin, I know the Cubs had a bad reputation besides, I know obviously Miguel Amaya's had his issues. Yan Gomez was awful. Thomas Nido. I mean, you go down the list of Cubs catchers. Christian Bethancourt has got an arm. I mean, I know the Nationals like to run. They got a really young, fast team, but you got to think twice with Christian Bethancourt. So risky move, but great defense in that 6th inning. Bottom of the 7th, Nico singles, PCA flies out. Nico steals second, and then Christian Bethancourt hits a dribbler in front of catcher Drew Milas, who tags out Bethancourt right away. Like the ball, literally is 8 inches in front of home plate. I don't even think Bethancourt ran. He was just kind of looking like he was almost fouled. And then Nico is caught in between second and third. He's dead to rights. All Milas had to do is run and make him commit one direction or another. He didn't. He throws it towards second. He makes a bad running throw. It bounces in the dirt into the outfield, and Nico scores, and the Cubs take a 5-3 lead. Great, a little insurance run there. Assad pitches,
and he might have been out, right? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, he might have been out.
The manager would have wanted to challenge that one. It was a close call.
Yep.
Now, Assad pitched the Dustin special quality start, 6 innings, giving up 3 runs on 8 hits. So 2nd game in a row, Dustin. Yep. Imanaga and then Assad, 3 runs on 8 hits, 2 up, and 4 Ks. And this is where the Cubs bullpen, this is where this has got to be what it looks like somehow at the end in a close game. Tyson Miller takes the 7th, great bounce back. Jorge Lopez, who had a little bit of a groin issue, but he looked okay. He pitched the 8th inning, and then Porter Hodge closed it out. But those are your 3 guys to close the game.
Takes us to Sunday afternoon. Cubs going for the sweep, a 12:35 first pitch, and it was Jordan Wicks back for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and for the 3rd straight game, the Nationals jumped out to the lead. Things got dicey in the 2nd inning for Jordan Wicks on his return.
It sure did.
James Wood singled, Juan Yepes doubled, and CJ Abrams hit a soft infield single to load the bases with no outs. And Dustin, for the rest of my life, I'll always just think about Pat Hughes just kind of saying, turning point moments can happen early in a game, right? It doesn't have to be in the 8th or 9th inning.
Right.
It could be as early as the 1st, 2nd inning. And that's the situation right here is that, we talked about Keibert Ruiz being cold on the cold list. Wicks gets him to ground into a double play. Paredes made a beautiful play from his knees. He throws it to Nico, who throws it to Patrick Wisdom. A run scores, but you get 2 outs there. And so that put the Nationals up 1-0, but the Cubs would easily take that double play in exchange for a run.
Absolutely.
And then Luis Garcia flies out. Nice play by Ian Happ. But that inning could have gone way worse. That could have gone off the rails.
Absolutely. Yep. And that would have been a rough return, as you said, for Jordan Wicks.
Now, once we get there, the Cubs come roaring back in the top of the 3rd. PCA, he is just such a disruptor on the base paths, right? He hits a leadoff single. Miguel Amaya pops out to second, but then starter Mitchell Parker is trying to pick off PCA, right? PCA's moving, he's distracting Parker. Pete dives back. Parker throws it, trying to pick him off, and the ball kind of ricochets off PCA's ankle and goes down the right field line, and PCA makes it all the way to 3rd. So Ian Happ singles to tie it up.
Yep, that was great.
Dansby Swanson doubles to put runners at 2nd and 3rd, and Seiya would walk to load the bases. Cody Bellinger struck out for the 2nd out, but Isaac Paredes picked him up, a 2-out RBI single. Happ scores, Swanson scores, Seiya to 3rd. Cubs take a 3-1 lead. Dustin, we've been talking about how Isaac Paredes has been struggling. I don't know what's happened, but this weekend it seemed like he really came alive.
Yeah, and he played some good defense too.
Yeah, some great defense. And the thing about Isaac, he always gives you good at-bats. And I think that's kind of a really big difference to think about when you think about who we replaced in Christopher Morel, is when Christopher Morel struggles, strikes out a lot. When Isaac Paredes struggles, he still gives you good at-bats, 7, 8, 9, 10 pitch at-bats. But now all of a sudden, I don't know what changed, but this, kind of seemed to be going here. Top of the 4th, Nico hits a leadoff single, and once again, PCA causes chaos. Pete hits a soft bunt up the 3rd base line. 3rd baseman Jose Tena makes a nice play. He should have pocketed it. He's not catching PCA on that. Now that throw ends up in the outfield. Nico scores. PCA's at 3rd with no outs. Cubs take a 4-1 lead. Unfortunately, this is probably one of the few negatives of the entire weekend. No outs, PCA at 3rd. They couldn't get him in. So I was going, oh, God, tell me we're not going to get into one of those stages where we're not going to add on any runs.
Right.
But that's not the case. Jordan Wicks made his first start since going on the IL on June 14th. And after getting out of that bases loaded jam in the 2nd, he would set down 9 of the next 10 batters he faced. On his birthday, Wicks pitched 5 innings, gave up 1 run on 4 hits, no walks, and no Ks.
Pretty interesting, right? No walks, no Ks, 5 innings.
Right. And when you think about it, Dustin, I'm sitting there looking at this and I'm saying to myself, man, if Jordan Wicks can come back and be part of this rotation, it makes things real interesting, but you got to wonder, what's going to happen to Kyle Hendricks if he's going to be kind of that last man off the bottom man on the totem pole in that bullpen,
Right.
Now, the Cubs would add 3 more runs in the 7th with 1 out. Dansby singled, Seiya doubled, and Cody Bellinger hit a single to score both Dansby and Seiya to give the Cubs a little breathing room, make it 6-1. Bellinger advanced a 2nd on wild pitch, and here he comes again. Isaac Paredes singled to score Belly, and the Cubs were up 7-1. So now the Cubs are up 6-1. Council's able to give those high leverage relievers a day off. Keegan Thompson throws 2 scoreless innings. We'll talk about newest Cub Sean Armstrong, but he pitched a scoreless inning as well. But the 9th inning is where it completely goes off the rails for the Nationals. They got 2 outs, right, Dustin? They got 2 outs. They're down 7-1. Isaac Paredes is going to walk to load the bases. Michael Busch walks to drive in a run. Nico hits a 2-run single. PCA singles to load the bases again. Miguel Amaya doubles. Mike Tauchman and Dansby Swanson single. And by the time Cody Bellinger flies out to end the inning, the Cubs have a 14-1 lead. Ethan Roberts comes in and mops this one up. But Dustin, once again, the Cubs had double-digit hits and runs. They scored 14 runs on 18 hits. Dansby Swanson was 4 for 6 with an RBI. Seiya Suzuki 2 for 4 with 2 walks. Isaac Paredes 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and a walk. Nico 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. And PCA was 3 for 5. And the Nationals had no answer for him.
Yeah, 0. Yeah, PCA was kind of the star of this. Always creating some kind of excitement, some kinds of havoc. He was great. He was really special.
I'm going to start calling him Professor Chaos. He just literally that's just him, man. And when you look at this series and you look at the week, Dustin, the Cubs went 8-1 during this 9-game 3-cities road trip. Took 2 or 3 from the Marlins, swept the Pirates, swept the National. In 4 of those games, they scored more than 10 runs. So, Dustin, we're now on a 6-game winning streak. Won 12 of their last 15 games since August 16th. This team has really turned it around, and now they're coming back home.
Well, and now it's Craig Timber, right? We're into September. This is Craig's time, so we're gonna see what the Cubs can do. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun month. Hopefully, all these games are gonna count, keep us interested. There's no doubt about that. You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's episode 71 of season number 3. The Cubs are making their playoff push. Don't forget to leave us one of those 5-star reviews. You can email us, flythew670@gmail.com. You can watch us, that's right, on the 670 The Score YouTube page. And we're on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. You'll see Crawly doing all his craziness. All right, Crawly, let's talk about some playoff odds as they've gotten within 3 of the wild card now. 3 games within the wild card.
I mean, this has just been a really bizarre season. They started March and April going 18-12. Fell apart in May, going 10-18, 11-16 in June. Then in July, it kind of turns around. They go 13-12. But since then, they've been on fire. In August, they have a record of 18-8. They're 20-8 since July 31st and are 32-18 dating to July 4th. That's the second best record in the majors during that stretch, only trailing Arizona. So we talked about it. They've won 6 in a row. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And so now we got to take a look at the playoff odds here. And this is per Fangraphs. You could take a look at the wild card odds here. I'm looking at the NL right here and the wild card. And so right now, the team that's ahead of everybody is the Padres. And they have the Padres at an 89% chance of making the playoffs. The Diamondbacks, we said, second hottest record right behind the Cubs, or right in front of the Cubs. They're at 87%, the Braves 73%, the Mets 28%, and the Cubs close to 7%. But Dustin, if you remember this time last year, Fangraph playoff odds had the Cubs at 90% chance to make the postseason, right?
Right. Yep.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that the Cubs are not, just 6%. That doesn't seem like a lot. A lot can happen. And so as we kind of take a look at them, the records and the opponents and everything, the Braves just came off a rough series with the Phillies, losing 3 out of 4 and falling to 7 games behind the Braves. The Mets are the team right now behind the Braves for that final playoff spot. They're the only ones ahead of the Cubs. They have a record of 73-64, just 1 game behind Atlanta after the Mets swept the White Sox. I mean, Jesus, that's outside of town. I mean, they have lost over 100 games, Dustin, and it's Labor Day today. That's
right. They were 0-10. They were 0-10 for the first time in the franchise's history on a homestand. 0-10.
And that's for the third time in franchise history, they've had 3 10-game losing streaks. That's just unreal. But the Cubs are just 3 games behind the Braves with a record of 71-66. But the thing to keep in mind, Dustin, about this is even though we say 3 games, it's technically 4,
right? Because
of the tiebreaker.
Yes.
So that's the one thing we do have to keep in mind. And so now when you take a look at this, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. We talked about the Mets being the team ahead of the Cubs. And when you take a look at the Mets schedule in September, they have Boston, which is, a team that's above 500 and they can play some good games. Then you got the Reds, which are really bad. The Blue Jays are bad, but then 3 against the Phillies, 3 against the Nationals, then 4 against the Phillies, 3 against the Braves, and 3 against Milwaukee's. That is a hard schedule for me. That when I look at the Mets in September.
Yep, not easy. That's for sure. So that's what's got. Now we're going to be scoreboard watching. We're going to be previewing series. We're going to keep our eyes on a lot of different games, a lot of different matchups. Again, it's fun. This is fun. This is why you're so invested in this team. And they're having a good run. They're beating the teams now. They do still have series against the Yankees. They've got to go out west. They got to play the Dodgers, right? So they've got some tough games ahead. But then they get back to a softer part of the schedule. So It is
Right.
really going to be interesting. And again, this is supposed to be Craig Timber, so let's see what kind of magic old Craig Counsell can give us on the north side.
Now, when you talk about the Braves who have that final playoff spot, they got 3 against the Rockies. They got the day off today. They got 3 against the Rockies, 3 against the Blue Jays, and then a makeup game against the Reds. So one less day off in the month, which is good. Hopefully they tire out. They got 2 against the Nationals, not a good team. Then a day off, but then they have 4 at home against the Dodgers, 3 against the Reds, 3 against the Marlins. So both not really good teams. They finish up with 3 against the Mets and 3 against the Royals. So Dustin, depending on how the Cubs do, and if they can kind of keep pace with both of these teams, this series right here that I'm looking at, it's Braves versus Mets in Atlanta last week of the season, second to last series. Those are the 2 teams that are in front of the Cubs. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, the Mets fall out of it. Maybe they can take a couple from the Braves and help the Cubs out. So when you look at this here, they have, the series against the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Royals, 3 teams above 500. But the Dodgers are really the only great team, I think, that they face in their schedule. And then, like you said, Craig Tober here, or Craig Timber, when we're taking a look at this.
That's the problem. There is no Craig Tober yet. There's only Craig Timber. If you're the highest paid manager in baseball, you think there would be Craig Tober, but so far it's only Craig Timber.
Now, the Cubs, what you were talking about their schedule a little bit, they come home, they have a 6-game homestand against the Pirates and the Yankees. And that Yankee series is going to be interesting. Anthony Rizzo was just called off the IL.
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
He's back. So imagine that he's going to be there for that game. But then, like you said, they travel out west. God, I hate these West Coast starts, 9-10, every one of them against the Dodgers. Now, Dustin, I do kind of want to say that when you look at the Dodgers right now, kind of something interesting is they have a lot of injuries. Once again, Clayton or Kershaw is injured right there. I'm taking a look here at some of the situations, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto is a guy that I like. He's been on the IL with right tricep tightness. Tyler Glass now has right elbow tendonitis. Tony Gosselin has had Tommy John surgery. River Ryan has Tommy John surgery. Dustin May is out till 2025. So they just had to call some kid up from AAA from the Oklahoma Dodgers. I know the Dodgers are a great team, but the Cubs may be catching them at the right time, if you get what I'm saying.
Yep, maybe. Yeah. I mean, listen, that's why they play the games, right? And the old that's baseball. Cubs are going to go out there and they're going to see what happens, right? We'll see what happens.
Now, after the Dodgers, they got 3 against the Rockies. Then 3 against then they come back for a homestand here where they have 3 against the A's. They have 4 against the Nationals. And then the last team that they have to play over 500 is Philly. So I guess that's the thing that kind of makes me nervous is the Cubs have 3 series against first place teams, the Yankees, right, Dodgers, and Phillies.
But maybe the Phillies series won't matter to the Phillies at that point.
Right. But then you have series against some really bad teams in the Pirates. The thing about the Rockies series is that's always a weird part to play in, even when the Rockies are bad at home. But then you got the A's and the Nationals. Again, the Cubs just swept the Nationals. Now you look at that last homestand in September, and that is against the Reds, who are not a very good team, Dustin, but seem to have had the Cubs number all season. And you're going to have to sit there. Every one of these series now is important. Every one of these games is magnified. You can't make mistakes. You can't make an error that cost you a game. You can't blow anything in the bullpen. You do that in April. Again, the games count the same in April as they do in May. But if you make a mistake in April or May, you have time to kind of make it up. No more time. This is it. If the Cubs are going to sit here and be a team that's going to be a postseason, they're going to have to play some of their best baseball. And I know you've always talked about Craig Timber and that idea of Craig being, the best kind of manager in September. This is going to have to be on him and the coaching staff to make sure these guys are ready to play, making the right moves, pushing the right buttons. And if all goes well, like you said, all you can ask for, Dustin, is you're playing meaningful baseball in September. I do enjoy the fact that this actually matters to us right now.
Yep. That's really huge. And let's strap in and enjoy the ride. That's for sure. You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3. It is episode 71. The Cubs making their playoff push. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, please. You can email us, flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page. All right, let's go back to the standings, Crawly.
Yeah, when we look at the Central, the Brewers are just red hot, man. I still don't understand how they're doing it. They're at 80 and 57. The Cubs are 9 games behind the Brewers. It would take a miracle to catch them. The Cardinals are 2 games behind the Cubs in third place, 11 games back. Cincy are 15.5 games back from the Brewers, and then Pittsburgh is in last place, 16.5 games. We talked about the wild card. Again, the Braves, the Mets in front of the Cubs. But one thing that's interesting, Dustin, is I'm also going to want to watch the Diamondbacks and the Padres. I mean, those, all 3 of those teams, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Braves, the ones that would be in the postseason right now, are 6-4 in the last 10. The Mets are 7-3, and the Cubs are the hottest at 9-1. But who knows? Maybe all of a sudden either the Diamondbacks or the Padres get in a slump. I got to ask you, Dustin, what is your opinion on this 3-team wild card? Do you think it's more enjoyable, or do you think it kind of dilutes the postseason?
No, I think it's more enjoyable because you've got these teams that are alive. Right, more fans have a rooting interest later on in the season, so that's what I like about it.
All right. Well, we talked about this in segment 1 on Friday. The Cubs claimed right-handed pitcher Sean Armstrong off waivers from the Cardinals to make room for Armstrong. Catcher Thomas Nido was released. He was rehabbing, out in Arizona, and then Armstrong was added to the Cubs roster on Saturday. So he was picked up Friday, added to the roster on Saturday, plays Sunday. So Daniel Palencia was optioned to Iowa to make room for him. Now, the rosters expanded on Sunday. The Cubs added 1 pitcher and 1 position player, and they made a few moves. Jordan Wicks, we talked about, was activated to make room for him on the 40-man roster. Nick Madrigal, remember him? He was moved to the 60-day IL with a left pinky fracture. Miles Masterboni returns as the added position player. Dustin, some people on the old Twitter were not that happy with that.
They wanted to see one of the young guys, right? They wanted one of the young guys brought up.
I mean, I take a look at the situation. Luis Vasquez is already on the team, and he's an infielder, but Miles Masterboni is a lefty, and he's probably he's faster than Luis. With Owen Casey, I know people want to see what he has. Where's he playing, Dustin? I guess that would be the question. The team that you've seen that has come rolling around here right now, you saw what happened with PCA last year when they did the exact same thing with PCA, not giving him a lot of starts, not giving him a lot of at-bats. You're not going to sit down Seiya. You're not going to sit down PCA, and you're not going to sit down Ian Happ, and you're not going to sit down Cody Bellinger. None of those things are going to happen. So basically, whoever that person that they added is going to sit on the bench. You're not going to sit there and give Owen Casey 3-4 starts in a row, which is what you need. You don't have time right now. I told you before, you had some time to kind of play around and let guys, you had time to let Miguel Amaya make the adjustments. You had time to let PCA make the adjustments. You don't have that time for Owen Casey. So I would rather he continue to develop in AAA and play games and start every single day than sit on a bench and get 1, 2, 3 at-bats a week, maybe tops.
Right. Totally agree. Totally agree, especially now that these games, as we've talked about in the first couple of segments, really matter, right? I mean, this is go time. So I agree with that. I believe it or not, I'm not that upset that Miles Masterboni is back up.
I feel so bad for the guy. He didn't do anything wrong, and literally they played him in the wrong position one time in 2023, and people just hate the guy. I mean, he gives you what he gives you. He's just a slightly, an average replacement player that you need on your roster. So I don't know. Miles is fine. Don't hate on the guy. He's
all right. Let's preview the second place Cubs against the last place Pirates. The first game is going to be later on tonight, but let's talk about the previous series.
Yeah, previous series a week ago, right? And it was one of the most enjoyable series of the season. Jamison Tyone took on Mitch Keller in game 1, 18-8, setting season high marks in hits, 21 and runs, 18. They stole 8 bases, the most since 1911. Game 2 saw Justin Steele take on Jared Jones, who was coming on off his first start off the IL. Cubs were down 2-0 before scoring 5 in the 4th, 4 in the 5th, and they would win this one as Dansby Swanson and Seiya Suzuki both hit 2 homers. The third game saw Kyle Hendricks take on Paul Skeens. Cubs were down 10-3 before scoring 2 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th, and 6 runs in the 9th as Christian Bethancourt drove in 7 runs, and the Cubs completed an improbable comeback, 14-10 to sweep
Game of the year.
Buckles.
Game of the year.
Yep. Pirates, like we talked about, still in last place with a record of 63-73, 10 games under 500. They just wrapped up a series with the Cleveland Guardians, losing 2 out of 3. The Pirates are 4-6 in their last 10 games and are 31-37 on the road.
All right, tail of the tape time, Crawly. Tail of the tape.
When we talk about the tail of the tape, when it comes to batting average, the Cubs have the advantage, 240. That's 19th in baseball, while the Pirates are 236, 23rd in baseball. When it comes to slug, the Cubbies are moving up here. They are 18th in baseball with the 394 slug. The Pirates do not slug very much. They are 26 in all of baseball, 373. The dreaded runners in scoring position, the Cubs are 21st in baseball with a 406 average with running in scoring position. And then the Pirates, 26 with 362. Starting pitching right now, this is interesting. The Pirates are 7th with a 384 ERA, while the Cubs are 8th, only one spot behind them at 386. So they are extremely close when it comes to starting pitching. But the big difference comes in the next two categories. Relievers, the Cubs are 7th with a 371 ERA, and the Pirates are 27th with a 464 ERA. That tells you, Dustin, you gotta wait these starters out. They're not guys that go deep because they are a young pitching staff, but you get to that bullpen, you can make magic. We saw that in that amazing comeback. And especially defense, the Cubs are 16th in baseball with 11 defensive runs saved, while the Pirates are 24th with -15.
All right, let's get into it. Game number 1 later on tonight, a Labor Day evening game at the Federal Landmark. Jameson Taillon will take the ball.
He takes on Jared Jones at 6:40. So just keep in mind now.
Weird start time. Yeah.
Well, that's what they do now in April and May. They do the 6:40 times, and then they move to 7:05 in June, July, and August. And then in September, they kick back to 6:40.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just you got to remember. So you get in front of the TV or get in front of the radio at that time.
Yeah, make the adjustment. So Jameson Taillon is 9-8 with a 385 ERA in 23 games, started with 104 strikeouts and 133 in the third innings. August has been the best month for the Cubs, but the worst for Taillon. He's gone 2-2 with a 5.65 ERA. Taillon has faced the Pirates twice this season. He took the loss at Wrigley on May 19th, pitching 4 2/3 innings and giving up 3 runs on 6 hits. Last week, he got the win, going 6 2/3 innings, giving up 4 runs on 8 hits. JMO is 2-2 lifetime against the Pirates with a 5.96 ERA in 4 games. The Pirates hit 180 as a team against Taillon, so that's maybe part of the thought process of why they pushed, because Taillon was supposed to start the third game of the series against the Nationals, and instead they activated Jordan Wicks. So that's maybe the thinking. Pirates don't hit Taillon that well. Yasmani Grandal is 2 for 17. Michael Taylor is 1 for 15. Rowdy Tellez 2 for 14, and Brian Reynolds is 4 for 12. Jared Jones is a 23-year-old rookie. He is 5-7 with a 3.88 ERA in 17 games started with 102 strikeouts in 95 innings pitch. He ended up on the IL on July 4th with a lat strain and was activated last Tuesday against the Cubs. In that start, he took the loss, going 4 innings, giving up 5 runs on 5 hits with 3 walks and 4 Ks. This is the third start against the Cubs this season. On May 10th, he was a tough luck loser, giving up 3 runs, only 2 of them earned on 7 hits in 6 innings. A week later, he got a win at Wrigley, giving up 3 earned runs on 6 hits in 6 innings. So he's 1-2 against the Cubs with a 5.63 ERA in 3 starts. But again, this is a guy that this is his second start coming off the IL, and we'll see if it's going to take him a little time, how many innings they're going to let him throw. He didn't go long last game against the Cubs. Cody Bellinger's 3 for 8. Ian Happ 3 for 9. But Jones features a 4-seam fastball that averages 97 miles an hour, a slider, and a curveball as well.
All right, game number 2, man. This is a heavyweight battle right here, right? We got Justin Steele, Paul Skeens.
I want to say I read it somewhere that the Cubs have faced Jared Jones and Paul Skeens 8 times this season. Come on. This is a rematch of the pitching matchup from last week. Justin Steele is 5-5 with a 3.09 ERA in 22 games started, 131 strikeouts, and 128 innings pitched. In that start against the Pirates on Tuesday, Steele went 5 innings, gave up 2 runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, and 6 Ks. This is the third time Steele faces the Pirates this season. He took a no decision on May 11th, giving up 6 runs on 6 hits in 4 innings. He took the loss on May 16th at Wrigley, giving up 5 runs on 6 hits in 5 2/3 innings before getting the win on Tuesday night. Justin is 2-3 lifetime against the Pirates with a 6.10 ERA over 9 games. 8 of those were starts. Brian Reynolds is 5 for 21 against Steele. Connor Joe, 7 for 15. And O'Neill Cruz is 4 for 10. So watch out for Connor Joe. Paul Skeens is 8-2 with a 2.23 ERA and 18 starts with 136 strikeouts in 109 innings. He faced the Cubs on Tuesday. He gave up 2 runs on 5 hits with 1 walk and 6 Ks, but he didn't factor in that decision because
just 6 Ks, only 6 Ks.
Right, but again, that bullpen is what the Achilles heel. This is the third season faces the Cubs in his MLB debut. He gave up 3 runs on 6 hits in 4 innings. In the next start, he pitched 6 no-hit innings at Wrigley Field and picked up the win. So he's 1-0 in his career against the Cubs in 3 starts with a 3.38 ERA. The Cubs are 8-42 against Skeens. PCA's 2 for 4, and Nico's 2 for 3. But Skeen features a 4-seam fastball that averages 99 miles an hour, a sinker, a slider, and a curveball.
All right, game number 3, the wrap-up will be on Wednesday night. Shota Imanaga taking the ball.
Yeah, the Pirates still have it at TBD, but it looks like Bailey Falter. I'll be at this game, 6:40 start. Shota Imanaga is 10-3 with a 3.08 ERA in 24 games started with 140 strikeouts and 140 in a third innings. Shota did not face the Pirates last week. His last start came against Miami, where he gave up 2 runs on 4 hits in 7 innings. Shota's only faced the Pirates once this season, pitching 7 innings of shutout ball, giving up only 4 hits and striking out 7. Shota's only faced Pittsburgh once in his career, and none of the Pirates have more than 3 at-bats against him. Now, I don't know if the Pirates are what they're going to do, if Bailey Falter is going to make this start or not. He's 27-year-old lefty who's 6-7 with a 4.25 ERA in 22 games started, 79 strikeouts in 112 and a third innings. Falter's had a couple of really good outings and a couple of really bad outings in August. On August 11th, he gave up 4 runs on 7 hits in 4 innings against the Dodgers. 2 starts ago against Seattle, he did better. He gave up 2 runs on 8 hits in 5 2/3 innings. In his last start, the Reds rocked him. He gave up 5 runs on 6 hits in 5 innings. Unfortunately, Bailey has had the Cubs number this season, even though he hasn't factored in any of the decisions in games he started against the Cubs. On May 12th, he gave up 2 runs on 5 hits in 6 innings. 1 week later, he did even better at Wrigley. He pitched 7 2/3 shutout innings, gave up only 3 hits. He's 0-3 lifetime with a 6.11 ERA in 8 games, 5 of those starts. A few of the Cubs have had looks at Falter. Patrick Wisdom is 5 for 10. So obviously lefty versus righty, you would assume that Bush would get the day off. Dansby Swanson is 5 for 9, but Seiya, it doesn't hit him that well, and neither does Mike Tauchman. So Bailey features a 4-seam fastball, a slider, and a curveball.
All right, the hot and the not. We know that this team has been on fire based on the offense, but the 2 guys who have not been contributing as much is Michael Busch and Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, you take a look at these numbers. Christian Bethancourt, 444, again, limited at bats. PCA's hitting 421. Nico, 368. Dansby, 350. Ian Happ, 348. Seiya, 318. Isaac Paredes, who we talked about, 313. So, boy, oh boy. I mean, everybody, it's just on all cylinders. The only 2 that really aren't, Michael Busch is 231 with 2 RBIs in the last week, and Cody Bellinger is hitting only 125 with 1 home run and 5 RBIs. So, again, you can have guys slumping like Michael Busch and Cody Bellinger when you got 3 or 4 guys hitting 300, 400 in the last week.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Pirates, hot and not.
The Pirates have been hot in the last week, too, as far as the hitting. Rowdy Telez in the last week, 500. O'Neill Cruz, we talked about that guy, 455. Yes, Monty Grandal's hitting 400 in the last week, very limited bats. Andrew McCutcheon, 375. Brian Reynolds, 350. So they got 4 or 5 guys that are hitting. But, out of all those guys, the ones you really got to work out that have regular at bats are Brian Reynolds and O'Neill Cruz. Those are the guys you really got to be watching out for. As far as the not is concerned, Isaiah Kinner Falefa, who they traded for with the Blue Jays, He's hitting 174 in the last week, and Brian De La Cruz is hitting 154. So those are the guys that you don't have to worry too much about.
All right, prediction time, Crawly. Go ahead. You can go first.
Boy, oh boy. I hate to do this. I'm going to go Cubs take 2 out of 3. I still think they win the series. Jared Jones, and Paul Skeens are just great pitchers. And then again, Bailey Falter. The Cubs have had their issues with lefties this season. I still think they take 2 out of 3.
Well, I'm gonna say they're gonna sweep. I'm gonna say they're gonna get to that bullpen. The bullpen is where the Pirates have issues. Cubs arguably have their best starters going in this series, right? On paper, anyway, their best 3 guys probably going. So I'm gonna say they're gonna sweep them, Crawly.
Well, you've been right the last 2 series. From your lips to the baseball god's ears that the Cubs can finish this one up.
That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on all the socials. Fly the W on Facebook, Instagram. We're on Twitter. You can email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. And you can watch us by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy your Labor Day. And let's hope when we get back, at the very least, the Cubs have taken 2 out of 3 from the Pirates.
Yep, just keep chipping away, keep winning series is all you can do. And I hope to see all of you at Wrigley Field on Wednesday. I'll be there cheering the Northsiders. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!